Anybody else figure out when they could possibly make some time to write?
The deadline is in March, isn't it?
Is it?
Is that right, Ryan? Is the deadline in March?
It is. Yes.
Which year?
Our big exhibition won't be till next year in June, but I said it in March because I know maybe some people might push that deadline. So.
And there is a limit on the pages.
Yeah. Well, we said 10 pages right front and back, which makes 20. But like we explained in the working workshops, if you are on a roll and you can keep up and you want to do a few more pages, like 40 pages, then we can work on that too. We just want to make sure that you finish your book by March.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to stuff everything in there, but at the same time, if you have a lot of wonderful photos, then maybe you write smaller little almost even captions for the photos that do a lot of explaining, and then maybe you have your beautiful family tree in the front or the back, and then you're done. And you can always think about the next book that you're going to write when you have time. So maybe you move on to a different grandparent. Yes.
So is that what you suggest? So like I have like all these ideas in my mind, but I don't know where to start. And so every person has 2 parents and then 4 sets of grandparents, and then there's all those stories. So like how do you like for me it's like where do I decide which one to start with?
Right. I would write all of those ideas down on Post-its or on a piece of paper, and I would think, okay, I may be writing 5 books here, but I'm not going to scare myself by thinking about that. I'm going to think about this book. And my fondest memory is when I made a certain recipe with my grandmother. I'm going to focus the book on that. Or I always liked when we took a summer vacation, and I'm going to focus on those summer vacations. Or my grandfather was a teacher. I'm going to write just about him and his career. That sort of thing. Do you have any kind of?
Yeah, I do, but I'm trying to think too, because I think this group here is more looking at a lot of historical stuff and archival stuff. That maybe do I focus on that, because actually as a group we could kind of talk to each other and use different resources and kind of figure out together, like, should I go that way?
Work with each other that way, yeah. And so is your research mainly in the 20th century, or is it back in the 19th century?
Like early, like in between, kind of the early part of the 1900s.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that's always a fun time to write about too. And so maybe you want to just think about the grandparents that were in the 1900 census. Let's write about them. What were their occupations? Where did they live? That kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I think one of the problems when we're doing all of this research, it takes time for us to get our documents.
Yes.
I've got, documents, and I might not get it for 2-3 months.
Yes.
So what do we do in the meanwhile? Make up a story?
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Are there any that you've been able to get off the internet or yet?
Well, I spent a whole day at the National Archives.
Yeah.
And I could not, what I was doing is I was trying to verify the ship that my father came on in 1906.
Okay. I
was able to find the first leg of it, which is from Japan to Hawaii. But I couldn't find the second part of it. So I'm, spinning my wheels on that part of it right now.
Yeah.
And then I did send back to the National Archives back east for his file.
Yeah.
Which may, take a couple of months before I get it.
That's right. And so, I would create a contingency plan. So in case you get that back from the archives and they don't have it, that could be a possibility too. So what will you do in that case? Otherwise, I would keep writing the rest of it while I'm waiting for that document. But at the same time, I would think, what am I going to write if I don't get that document at all? So, do you know his port of entry? Was it Angel Island or?
It was San Francisco, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the second trip that when he went back and married my mother, they came back together.
Yeah.
And I have documents for that.
Okay.
And then they did, I think, I couldn't verify whether or not they went to Angel Island, but I think they did make a short stop in Angel Island
Okay,
when they landed in San Francisco.
okay,
So,
yeah. I would make the plan that, I would pretend like I wasn't gonna get that information at all, and I would write, go ahead and write like you don't have that information. And that's fine too, because you're gonna write things and you don't have everything. That's for the next person. The next generation who picks this up will write an update on your book. So rest assured, don't worry. But,
In the lab section, already there's a program called Ancestry.com. There's lots of information about our
yes,
charts right there.
yes. They have a lot of immigration information too, but sometimes one leg of the trip is missing.
also, the copies are so poor.
Oh,
When you get them, it's
Yeah.
so used to you.
Almost impossible
Yeah.
to read a lot of times. So, yeah, you have to think of a workaround. It's just, even if you say in a footnote, the records were not available or records were illegible, your future generation will know, okay, that's why she didn't include the shipping was on. There's so much to think about when doing these things, but again, you know, you're having fun and you're using those documents to make some discoveries, and even if you only can write about what can be found on the census records, I think that's pretty exciting as well. You know where they lived and what they did for their occupation and who was living in the household at the time and who their neighbors were.
I don't know if this is legitimate, but what I have done is I've gotten all the documents and I've written it in a fairy tale format, the story.
Fun.
Because I couldn't really document a lot of the facts.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. That's wonderful. I mean, the sky is the limit in doing these, I would say. You know, there's so many different ways you can approach it. So I'd love to hear if anyone else has thought of an approach and what they're going to do on their project. Are you, or what kind of documents are you going to include in your, or reference in your books? Is anybody even using the census records?
I have a question about the Mormon genealogy archives in Salt Lake City. It's a huge building, multi-story. Would that be one source to pursue?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. He was asking about the Mormon Library in Salt Lake City, and that's a place I go to 4 times a year because it has vast amount of microfilm, and the Mormons have gone around and captured all this information, and it's not just about people who are in their church, it's about everyone, and it's worldwide. And if you go to familysearch.org, which I mentioned that's where that software is, you can do a search for free on your family on there as well. So please do check that out because your family might be on there in the records that they digitized. They have a mountain, a literal stone mountain out there that they have carved out, and it's where they keep all the microfilm and to keep it protected. And it's amazing. So look and see what you can find online, and if they don't have it digitized, you can order the films through one of their churches. You can go to their church. They have a little library in every church, and they'll get the film for you, and you can look at it there at their facility. And you don't have to be a member of their church. I'm not a member of the church, and I use them weekly. I use everything they have.
That was
familysearch.org. Yeah, I wish I had put that in the syllabus too. Let's see, her and you.
Well, do they also have a library at the Mormon Temple in Oakland? I think somebody said that they.
Yes, they do.
That you could go.
They do. They have good resources there, and even your local one will have some resources. But yeah, the one in Oakland is huge.